Right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I don't have very much to do. Most of my announcements at the beginning of these things are to identify myself. My name is John Houghton, say that I'm the president, and announce what other programs we have going on for the summer. Since it's August, my speech gets shorter and shorter as we get closer to the end. We have still on our summer program Stories and Stones coming up on September 20th, is it, James?
Yep.
Saturday, September 20th at 1 p.m. in the Culver Masonic Cemetery. We do this in cooperation with the Culver Public Library. It is billed as a cemetery walk, but recognizing that many of us are not as young as I used to be, it's more of a cemetery sit. We have chairs, and the dead people come to visit us rather than the other way around. In any case, an interesting roster of people this year, including, among other things, one of the victims of Culver's most notorious drowning, which happened in January, a very, very bad time to fall into the lake. We will then be sort of on break until Christmas season, and we'll have a holiday program on the first Saturday in December. Content of that still to be determined. So, welcome back, and if you're interested in being a member and are not a member and would like to receive one of our millions of solicitations about becoming a member when we start this year's campaign, please speak to James and he'll make sure that you get on our mailing list for next time around. So with that taken care of, I'll introduce Jeff Kenny, who's going to introduce our speaker. Thanks again.
Hello. If those of you don't know, which is probably no one, I am the Museum and Archives manager for Culver Academies and also serve with John and others on the board of the Culver Historical Society. But I'm really here to talk about, for a moment, just a moment, about Bill Browne, who really doesn't need any introduction, but we're going to do one anyway. So Bill, after teaching in public schools for several years, he started at Culver in the summer of 1981, directing the Naval Band. And in the years between 81 and then his retirement from Culver in 2016, he did just about everything to do with music and a number of things not to do with music. He taught leadership and other things, but certainly directed Culver's band and orchestra. He taught music history, music theory, received the John B. Mars Award in 2016, and was a master instructor at the time of his retirement. He's done all kinds of work regionally and nationally in music during and after his time at Culver, including conducting the Air National Guard Band of the Midwest, and playing with the Kokomo Band. I can't read my own writing. I'm sorry, Bill. But you told me to keep it short, so I will do that. Let's let Bill. I'm really excited about this program, by the way. I just want to tell you, Bill has been in Culver's archives several times. It's been a lot of fun just digging in and chasing rabbit trails. So I think it's going to be a fantastic program.
Do I need this?
Yes.
Me? Okay, all right, thank you. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see a really diverse crowd here from all over the place, former students and so forth, so it's wonderful to have you here. The selections that you're going to hear today contain either Culver or Maxinkuckee in the title, or there's a direct connection to the town, to the lake, or to the academy. And over the years that I worked here, I noticed that several composers had been collectively telling a story and highlighting our area. And I realized that the inspiration centered upon the lake and all of the lake's magic. It's no wonder that when he fell ill, H.H. Culver said that Lake Maxinkuckee had a restorative and glorious effect on him in the late 1800s. The beauty of this lake and the magic of the place we call Culver has been inspiring artists, writers, and musicians for many years. But it may be the first time in over a century that some of what you hear today has been performed. There may also be some songs you're expecting to hear, and you won't hear them. That's because I chose today's pieces based on their unique place in our history, and there are so many more to present. A few more presentations. So, let's see here. There we go. Before we start, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for all those who have helped me make this presentation possible. Thank you, Dr. Doug Bird and the staff of the Academy for the use of the Heritage Room in this beautiful Legion Memorial Building. Thank you, Alexa Gardner and Tim Hockey from the IT department for all of your help today. And many thanks to the Antiquarian Historical Society, with a special nod to John Houghton and Jeff Kenny, historian of the Culver Academies. Their grasp of history here in the area is extremely broad and extremely deep. Thank you to Iris Fry and Karen Redinger of Marshall County Museum for their help in research. And thank you, Judy Dodge, for your gift of sheet music. Thank you also to our vocal soloist, Jenna Schroer, the Fine Arts Department Chair, and for her superb musicianship, which we will hear toward the end. And of course, a huge thank you to the pianists Sharon Burke and Alex Jeffirs, without whose amazing talent the magic of this music would not come to life. The grounds out here on the north shore of the lake in 1890 were home to H.H. Culver's Chautauqua, one of the two Chautauquas held on the lake. A Chautauqua was an educational and social movement which provided entertainment and culture with preachers, teachers, musicians, and popular speakers of the day. It was usually a resident camp, and it was in the country, or it was in a resort, or at a lake. And H.H. Culver's Culver Park Assembly and his tabernacle were built just outside the window here. The earliest piece that I found was by this guy, Daniel Hahn. He's a composer from Bourbon, Indiana. He studied at the Chicago School of Music with his wife, Idella, and then they returned to Bourbon to found the Bourbon College of Music. Now, in 1890, among the top 100 songs of the decade were 6 or 7 Sousa marches, and songs like My Old Kentucky Home, Sidewalks of New York, and so forth. But it's likely that, as well as those favorites, Maxinkuckee March was probably played here 135 years ago. So I'd like Alex and Sharon to come up and take their turns at helping us with the music. So this is Maxinkuckee March. Lasted about 2 or 3 years. I have some missing music, so if any of you ever find any of this, let me know. I'm still looking for 2 pieces from the late 1800s. and they're all mentioned in connection to the history of the lake. The first was by Herbert Neely, the Culver Park March, and it's mentioned in the Marmot Herald from July of 1894, and it tells us that Bandmaster Herbert Neely was a cornetist of national repute, and at the Chautauqua he assembled the boys into a fine band, and there were sweet and soul-thrilling strains of music from the musical instruments in the hands of the Academy's band. The second one was written by Frank Houston, who was a nationally renowned vocalist and the director of the Maxinkuckee Assembly, the Chautauqua, which was farther south on the lake. As a nationally renowned soloist, he planned to boost the popularity of his Chautauqua with the popular song Maxinkuckee. I only found the lyrics, but I'd like to share them with you. The poets sing of the Emerald Isle, with waters entrancingly fair, and Switzerland boasts of her gem of the Alps, resplendent with beauty so rare. Though over and over the world I go, there's beauty on every hand I know, and countless joys to be found, but, oh, 'tis fair Maxinkuckee for me. Oh, let us go boating, go merrily floating, over the crystal wave we'll glide, and from care be free. Oh, here is a treasure, here's joy without measure. I am so lucky, and fair Maxinkuckee's the place for me. So, if you find any of these, please let me know. Bugle calls have been heard on this lake for a long time. This is W.G. Johnston, who was one of our early band directors, and as the band director in his own right, he was also a renowned trumpet player and a bugler. He recorded bugle calls for RCA Victor for use around the world with a brand new invention, the phonograph. The bugle organized your day, it told you where to go, told you what to do, and it gave you marching commands and drill. You heard the bugle calls every day, and you acted accordingly. Time to get up, reveille. Time to eat, mess call. Time to get ready for bed, tattoo. Tattoo is featured in Mortimer Wilson's Culver March, which is next. From his earliest years in Sheraton, Iowa, Mortimer Wilson showed an extraordinary aptitude in music, and coming to Culver, his skills were not wasted. Upon band director Wiley Barham's departure in 1899, Lee Gillette asked this young, talented cadet to assume the role of band director. After Culver, Wilson went to Chicago to be a doctor, but instead he chose to study music at the Chicago Conservatory. And soon he was a music professor at the University of Nebraska. He was also quite in demand as a composer and a conductor, and he composed the music for many of Douglas Fairbanks' early silent movies, such as The Thief of Baghdad and The Son of Zorro. His Culver March of 1901 was dedicated to Culver Military Academy, its officers and cadets. Legion Let and his new school attracted bright and capable students from throughout the United States and beyond from its earliest days. As true then as it is now, bright students more often than not are fully engaged in the arts, and the cadets here were enthusiastic in every way about music, visual art, theater, and creative writing. Students develop deep bonds with their school and often express themselves in prose, poems, and songs. The earliest example of music I found was this wonderful ragtime piece written by Harry Adair, class of 01. First row. Have to do that now. Ragtime music found a rebirth in the 1970s with the movie The Sting. It gave new fame to The Entertainer and The Maple Leaf Rag by Scott McChalk. But I find the Cadets Rag to be every bit the equal of its more famous cousins. And you'll also notice another bugle call in the middle of the piece. The Culver Cadets Valse by A.E.J. McCreary. The talented Alfred Ernest Johnson McCreary was born in 1868 in Belfast, and he died in Montreal just a few years after he left Culver. McCreary served as the Academy's voice and piano instructor in 1913. He dedicated this waltz to then Colonel and Mrs. Ginolette, and it begins with a bugle call, one used infrequently today, and it's known as full dress. And for what better purpose than for use at the traditional end-of-year formal dance? Now, I struggled with lyrics in this little waltz because there just weren't any clues as to what they meant and their relevance. Because you read them and you're thinking, well, okay, none of this really goes together, but maybe it does. The first line, perhaps McCreary's own, hints at the early interdependence of summer and winter programs, with McCreary's choice of either sail or march in the first line. The second line uses the resources of widespread and popular poetry as he quotes this undated and anonymous poem, Fellowship, in the folksy lines about the hand upon the shoulder. The third line was a puzzle. General Robert Baden-Powell founded the Boy Scout movement in England in 1908, and he impressed Ginolette enough for Ginolette to instill the values of scouting in Culver's programs, particularly woodcraft. Baden-Powell and Rudyard Kipling were not only friends, but they were neighbors, and in 1913, everyone knew the poetry of Rudyard Kipling. As a favor to Baden-Powell, Kipling wrote a poem called A Boy Scout's Patrol Song. And the first line of it states, "These are our regulations. There's just one law for the Scouts." And that law in Kipling's mind was, look out. Here in this country, that translated to be prepared. And using poetry as a resource, the undated anonymous poem Fellowship includes the lines upon hand on the shoulder. So through poetry and culture references his audience surely knew, McCreary sought to emphasize camaraderie along with the other classic values and leadership principles being taught in this idyllic environment. So, Culver Cadets Waltz. You can sing along if you want to.
Who's your bugle call?
Christian Kuczynski. If you look at these pictures, this is a big one of the postcard that you've probably seen before with W.G. Johnston, the bandmaster, in 1916. If you look over where that little red arrow is, I'm pretty sure that's Christian. Because he was in this band, and he wrote this piece called The Parting Song. He was one of the more promising students, played clarinet, and I'm pretty sure that's him right there. Same feature. Here he is in the white band director's uniform for North Carolina State University, ROTC. He went on in music, and he became a huge force in music at North Carolina, especially at North Carolina State, and especially in the ROTC program. So his parting song, we'll just do one verse of it. There are three, but we'll just do one. For now. But it's very interesting because this is another example of student work. So, Alex? Another example of student work is the piece we call the Culver Song. Military bands were a major attraction in the musical life of the country, and none were more famous than John Philip Sousa's band. His most famous cornet soloist was Herbert L. Clark, who eventually left Sousa's band to direct his own band in Toronto. Wanting only the best education for his son, he sent him to Culver, and after 4 years, and in gratitude and appreciation for his son's experience here, Herbert and his wife wrote for us the Culver Song. These three verses describe 3 phases of the young man's life here. 1, as a new cadet, in awe of the grandeur of the school, his singular goal is to complete his years successfully and become like his mentors. 2nd verse is only to discover that upon graduation, cadet I was no longer, but his dream had become reality. And finally, 3, as an alumnus, he believes he may have accomplished his goal in having become a person of integrity, or in other words, to be a Culver man. So we're going to do all 3 verses. If you'd like to sing along, by all means. Alex will lead us. This Culver Alumni March is the marching version of the Culver song, where you hear the melody of the song is the melody of a trio, and it's used extensively toward the end of the year for many ceremonies because it's the marching version of what is our alma mater. This is as loud as this will go, and I apologize for that. Callahan's arrival at CMA, Culver found exactly the right combination of musician and military man who offered a vision of performing inspiring and stimulating music to amplify the mission of the Corps. He knew that once hearts were stirred, devotion would follow, and with the Garrison Parade he viewed as a production, the pieces he chose would help instill a love of the school. An early piece was this Culver Military Academy March by George Rosencrantz. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1881, and he composed his first march at age 17, and in his most active compositional periods, he produced approximately one march per month. He was very patriotic, community-minded, and as the son of a preacher, he had strong religious convictions. We celebrate George's music every week when the CMA band sounds off at the Garrison Parade. Jemjenik hailed from Cleveland. Jemjenik was best known for the descriptive music that he composed for the silent movies. He composed such stellar pieces as Mood Pensive and A Gruesome Tale and Storm Music and Ballet Sentimental and similar pieces. And these are what my grandmother played back in Iowa when she accompanied the silent movies. So marching the officers to the center of the field was a proud moment for them, and O'Callahan knew that a rousing football-like cheer song could instill that pride in the young officers and cause them to stand tall. College Yell is that music, and it's been used ever since. Mark and Tony and I make this. Can you still play that in your sleep? Right now you can't.
I only played the melody. I didn't play the
Well, Hollywood came to Culver in 1932 with the movie Tom Brown Culver, and again in 1939 with The Spirit of Culver. For movie buffs, these films are a chance to see young actor Tom Brown, a brief debut appearance by young Tyrone Power, and an uncredited Alan Ladd, and a young Jackie Cooper, and Andy Devine, and Freddie Bartholomew, and many more at the beginning of their careers. So Tom Brown is the story of a young man who attends Culver, sponsored by the American Legion as a tribute to his father, who had been a Medal of Honor recipient, supposedly killed in the war. In a strange turn of events, the young man's father shows up unexpectedly, revealing that he's been a deserter suffering shell shock. And when a disillusioned Tom drops out of school, his fellow cadets save him and help him to sort through the problems. He helps his father to recover and to receive an honorable discharge. He then returns to Culver and graduates. So this is the musical centerpiece of the film, the Culver Military Band, and it's subtitled, Give the Military Band a Hand. Has lyrics, and if you'd like to sing along, on the screen. Since Tom Brown was such a smashing success, The Spirit of Culver was produced in 1939, starring Jackie Cooper and Freddie Bartholomew. Now, this was an entirely new plotline. Tom Owl is the son of a decorated war hero who is 3, feared to have died in battle. 4, Tom is awarded a scholarship to Culver. His arrogance and unwillingness to comply with the Academy's strict rules soon gets him in trouble. But 5, his fellow cadets help him sort through his problems. 6, heroically save the day. This arrangement is derived from the full movie score and is for 4 hands piano. Whoops. All right, wrong one. if you could see all the notes that you have to cram into, there's a part that we couldn't put in there because we'd need another piano. But it was very interesting to work with Paul's score. So we come to the Black Horse Troupe. And Lee Gillelette's inspiration for the Black Horse Troupe probably came from seeing President McKinley's 1896 inaugural parade, where he envisioned the grandiose visual impact such a riding unit could provide for this fledgling military school. Culver purchased the first 16 mounts of its Black Horse Troupe in March of 1897, and from Troop A of Cleveland, and upon arrival they were greeted by the cadets, the band playing, and a cannon salute. Sure they were excited. So what do we play when the troupe passes by? Well, that march would be the signature tune for the Culver Black Horse Troupe during pass and review. There are 4 pieces of music associated with Culver's Black Horse Troupe, but 2 of them are scarcely known. The first one and the oldest one is Gary Owen. Gary Owen is an Irish drinking song, long associated with American military units, particularly Custer's 7th Cavalry. The 6/8 time signature divides each beat into 3 parts, and that evokes the rolling rhythm of the canter. From? They died with their boots on. J.L. Frank's March, 1899, takes the prize for the earliest march with Black Horse Troupe in the title. I have yet to discover Culver's relationship with J.L. Frank, but I couldn't help but notice in the opening theme how, to me, it foreshadows the theme song to Mr. Ed. Of course. Now, I won't say her name, but Alex told me that she lost the Mr. Ed thing. She's before my time. Boy, do I feel old.
I got homework.
That's it. So next is the much more famous Black Horse Troop March by John Philip Sousa. At a dinner held in Sousa's honor, he was asked by Captain Nye, the commander, to write a march dedicated to the military unit. And of course he did. The popular 6/8 time signature once again brings horses to mind. And this march is now heard at every summer parade and in many winter school parades when the troop is dismounted. A little side note that I'm not in this picture, but I am playing on this recording by the Green Band. This next march is the Culver Black Horse Troop March of 1921, and this composer's name has been spelled 3 different ways: Gillespie, or one L, whatever. I don't know very much about him, but and even less about the origin of the march, but what you see up here is what I found. He was born in Brown County in 1877, and he went to the Indianapolis Conservatory at an early age. He was a musician, a teacher, a conductor. He wrote mostly marches, and then he also sold and tuned and repaired pianos for a living. And in this 15 August 1915 Daily Tribune of the Vigo County Terre Haute paper, it says, "The composition of a Terre Haute musician, which has not yet been published, will be the first number played by the Vigo Concert Band. It is entitled Black Horse Troop, and it's a march." And with this 1915 date, of course, it proves that this predated Sousa's more famous march. I don't know why this march didn't find traction, and I'll probably never know why, but I gave it to Jay Gebhardt, band director at Purdue, Purdue's famous marching band, and he called this the best march he's ever heard by a composer that no one's ever heard of. And indeed, this march was played by U.S. Army bands in Europe during World War I, and many of the musicians said they considered it the greatest march ever written. So Culver's Digital Vault has a scratchy 1920 recording, which is the only one I know of, and I hope you will enjoy this updated rendition. creativity, and it figures prominently in inspiring artists and writers and musicians who visit its shores. Our last two pieces are Maxinkuckee Blue and Maxinkuckee Moon. Keith Elman is the composer of this little piece. I met him through Martin Jubel, who was Culver's beloved German teacher, and he was a stalwart clarinetist in the concert band for many, many, many years. Keith was a graduate, former Jubel student, and a violinist. He wrote little tunes as a hobby. His self-produced CD is called Diminished Hits, and it was filled with short, mostly two-part pieces that he wrote for fun. The charm of this little waltz is its simplicity. Just two lines, a melody accompanied by a single rising and falling arpeggio, recalls the gentle waves of Lake Max. Longtime resident Herbert Keller taught Spanish at Culver, where he also worked with J. Paul Fogarty, recently discharged from the Army, and Fogarty taught military science and coached football. He also tried his hand at songwriting, collaborating at times with Keller, and then later, Fogarty worked with the stars of the day, like Rudy Valley and Guy Lombardo, and he hit it big time with one I'm sure you all know, Betty Cohead. Herbert was also the father of another longtime Culver resident, Jean Keller Epley. And is Elaine? Where is Elaine? There's Elaine. Elaine actually is with us. You're her daughter.
He's my grandfather. Yeah.
Yes. And Herbert is his grandfather. So I'd like to invite Jenna and Sharon to present the star of our show, Maxinkuckee Moon.
When you're young, the world's a fairy tale. Every night's a merry tune. Every boy's a perfect lover.
also please get a round of applause for Major Browne, who has put this together.
Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Have any questions about me? That's it.
Are you supposed to say you are dismissed?
You are-
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody.